My guest today is artist Beverly Penn, one of two artists featured at William Campbell Gallery's Symbiosis Nature Revealed. Beverly, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I was reading up on your work. You deal a lot with the interactions of people and nature, among other things. So where in Texas do you go to get outdoors, and what's your method for unplugging from the world?
Well, in many cases, I make specific trips out to places where I know things are in season. I'm particularly interested in invasives and in native species. So sometimes they catch me by surprise. For example, as I'm traveling, I'll see a really great opportunity to harvest a batch of thistles, for example, that have they're in season, and I'm really interested in opportunities where nature's prolific. So invasive species have offer an abundance of source material for me. I cast plants directly from nature. I don't make molds of them, and so it's really important. There's an element of chance in the casting process. So if I have an excess of, for example, native species, then that element of chance is really not that important. I can get a lot of success out of having an abundance of things that I cast.
Well, tell us about this work. Where do these invasive plants come from? How did you decide how you would lay them out?
This is an amaranthus from the Texas coast. And these are antelope horn milkweed from the hill country. And this one, for example, pairs two plants. It's from a series that I've done called Chimera, where I marry two different plants together as one. It's kind of a hybrid of that, and they have a relationship to each other that is abstracted. For example, the amaranthus is a source of nutrients, and the antelope horn milkweed, not the bloom that I've harvested, but the green of it, is the food for the monarch butterflies.
Oh, wow. Important.
Right, so after the migration, when there's still the opportunity to gather the blooms to represent that plant, I bring these two together as if they're one species. So it sort of celebrates the things they have in common. And I think the hope is to put those things together in some really intricate patterns so that viewers come to look at the pieces. They might not otherwise, in plants in the environment, take the time to look carefully at them. And I name them for the plant species, usually. The titles aren't poetic at all. They're really, they're clear Latin names, especially in this one. So I hope that it prompts people to take a moment to look at that term. What does that mean? And then further the relationship. So this piece of Canthium is all thistles, although it's thistles from two different places. These are Canada thistles from the East Coast, from the place where I grew up. And so I bring them back to Texas to cast them here. And these thistles are found along the roadsides. As I travel up I-35, as a lot of us do to get to where we're going, these grow in the woods in the roadside, and I have to harvest them before the road maintenance folks cut them down. So it's a challenge, and it's interesting because I often find myself in places that might potentially be a little bit dicey in terms of other wildlife around. So I have to be take that same kind of care that early botanists did when they foraged to find plants of interest to them. But it's interesting because we have a really, I think, storied relationship with plants, because as humans, when we're in really lush environments, we don't actually really register the plants. It's like a backdrop for us. We're more tuned physiologically and biologically to look for the things that may harm us, right? Moving animals or the fauna that might be of danger to us. So as a result of that, we don't notice that we are actually losing more flora per capita in terms of the species than we are fauna. And I think endangered species include not only animals but plants as well.
Yeah. We tend to think about animals when we hear about nature.
True.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cute animals in particular.
Yeah.
Especially if they're cute.
Yeah.
And, in
Exactly.
a zoo, we worry about them.
I mean, as mammals ourselves,
It's our
we
team.
gravitate. Yeah, we gravitate toward that.
Well, folks, come out to the William Campbell Gallery Foch location through March 9 to see this show. I wanted to quote something I read on your biography, that one of your intentions is to encourage a more mutually beneficial relationship between people and the natural world. So I want to just close by asking you, what do we as people tend to get wrong in our interactions or thoughts about nature?
You know, I think we feel largely that we have control over nature through all kinds of genetic engineering and hybridization and grafting, and our agricultural systems have a lot to do with controlling the outcomes. Even as far as like the idea of taxonomy, to try to label things and put them into categories, is an effort that is important, but it also doesn't recognize the larger scheme. We're a part of it. We aren't separate from this environment, and our actions probably need to reflect a more reciprocal kind of relationship. So it's my hope that that might potentially bring people into maybe a larger understanding, or maybe just a greater awareness through fascination, because I think a lot of climate information now is presented in a way that's really frustrating, a bit depressing, and fearful.
Yeah.
So, but if we can approach that same problems through fascination and imagination, I think it might be something to motivate.
Awesome. Well, it's been a fun conversation. Plants are kind of like an estranged family member. We're trying to bring it back into bring it back into the family. So, really fun, informative show, and just beautifully done. So, thank you for bringing this to Fort Worth.
Thanks, Eddie.